All right. Thank you, Rick. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, July 15th, 2020, and this is a regular meeting of the Montclair Zoning Board of Adjustment. Notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice at the municipal building and sending a copy of the notice to the Star Ledger and the Montclair Times. We'll do the roll call. Mr. Harrison?
Here.
Mr. Fleischer?
Here.
Mr. Church?
Here.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Church. Here.
Here.
Okay. Mr. McCullough?
Here.
Mr. Moore is absent at this time. Mr. Allen is absent. Mr. Simon?
Here.
Ms. Harris is absent at this time. Mr. Caulfield is absent at this time. I believe he may be trying to call in. And Ms. Gilmer.
Here.
And Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
Okay, Chair Harrison.
Okay, well, the first resolution, Joe, do you want to handle the first resolution because I'm abstaining?
Yes, I know. The first resolution is that for Montclair Unicorn Partners LLC for properties located at 3A North Willow Street, 339, 345 Bloomfield Avenue. Does anybody have any changes to the resolution that was presented to us? Graham, I have no change. I haven't been pretty careful.
Okay.
So we need a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion to accept the resolution as specified.
Okay, Mr. Simon.
Second.
Okay.
Hello.
Second for Mr. Church.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and we'll call the roll. Ms. Gilmer, you were not at the last meeting, so you won't be eligible. Mr. Simon?
Approved.
Simon's a yes. Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Church?
Yes.
And Mr. Fleischer?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Graham, you want to announce the postponement and
Cancellation of the meeting?
August meeting? Yes.
Yes, okay. So this is to announce that the first application scheduled for this evening, application 2679, Tyrone and Lynn Williams for property at 357 Orange Road, will be carried to the September 16th meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. The applicant will publish further notice for that meeting date. This is also to announce that the board will be canceling their August 5th, 2020 board meeting. And the board has also canceled the August 19th board meeting. So the next meeting of the Board of Adjustment will be held on September 16th, 2020.
Okay. The first application is that of Glen Wendy Turell for property at 7 Wendover Road. This is an application for a variance to construct an addition to the existing one-family dwelling on the subject property. The property is in the R1 one-family zone district. Is designated on the township tax maps as block 1605, lot 4. The applicant is seeking a variance from the side yard setback requirement set forth in Montclair Code Section 347-45C1. The required setback is 6 feet on one side and 10 feet on the other. The applicant is seeking a setback of 4 feet 3 inches. Are taxes paid and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Ms. Turell, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Wendy Turell, 7 Wendover Road, Montclair.
And we also have Mr. Eric Schultz, the architect for the applicant as well.
I'll swear you in. Mr. Schultz, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Eric Schultz, 35 Alexander Avenue, Montclair.
Thank you.
And I just, for the record, it appears Mr. Caulfield has joined us. John, can you confirm you're here?
His audio is not yet connected.
Oh, hold a minute.
I just sent him a message to ask him. Well, here comes Mr. Moore. There's Mr. Moore. Hi, Jonathan.
Hello, hello.
Okay, so Mr. Moore has now joined us.
Sorry for my tardy. I was having some technical difficulties hopping on the call. For some reason, the link wasn't working. But
Okay. And Mr. Caulfield, I think now can hear us. Can you hear us, John?
I can.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, we're ready.
Ms. Turell, do you want to start explaining what you're planning to do with the house?
Sure.
Schultz, whichever.
I can, if you don't mind, I can jump in. Graham, can we quickly go to the photo of the rear yard? It's in the first
Oh, the submitted photo. Yes, hang on 1 second. Let me just pull the photos up. Is that in the plan set, Eric?
This aerial image actually has a photo of the backyard as the second.
Okay, there we go.
So the next page.
This page.
Yes, so the photo on the right is a photo of the rear yard as it currently is. And the goal here is to replace that screen porch and covered deck with a one-story addition that will house an expanded kitchen to the right of the screen, and then a powder room and a mud room to the left. And if we were to go to A0, the first architectural plan that you had up before, on the left, you can see that the footprint of the existing porch extends out about 12 feet from the footprint of the house, whereas the proposed would come out about 10 feet, but 2 feet less than the current porch. The addition would, however, we are proposing that it extend along the line of a side wall, which hence means that we are aligning, the new addition would also be 4'3". And so if we go to A1, the next drawing, which shows the existing condition in more detail, the existing porch in relation to the kitchen. And then if we go ready to A2 is the proposed kitchen. That shows the addition to the left would be the proposed built-in seating area on the left. In the middle would be a pair of gliding doors facing the rear yard with a small landing and steps. And then to the right would be a powder room and mud room. And then another small landing with steps facing the interior of the lot. I think you can see the built-in seating area that is surrounded by windows in that corner. That window wall, that's where we have about 1'9", which translates into like 18 square feet that will be within that setback. That's triggering the variance. If we were to go to the next drawing, which is A3, this is an elevation of the proposed rear. So you can see the new double hung windows to match the existing double hung windows. And then the big sliding doors in the middle, that's a lot of glass to visually connect the kitchen to the backyard. The new roof would be a shed roof, similar to what's there now. But if you go to the next drawing, A4, that shed roof, it's a little bit steeper than the existing, which is very flat. And this is a view from the interior side, looking at the new door to the mudroom, and then a window for the powder room. And that's basically it. Kitchen, mudroom, and powder room, 18 square feet along the side lot.
Okay. Are there questions from members of the board? I mean, I guess we should go through individually.
Sure.
Mr. Moore, do you have any questions?
I do not at the moment.
Mr. Fleischer, do you have any questions?
I do have one question, clarification. When I looked at the survey, it looked like the other yard was also under 10 foot. And though I know this has nothing to do with that side of the structure, do we not have to approve what is ultimately the total structure when it's there? So I just want to protect the applicant. So there's no issue that the fact that that is not 10 foot on the opposite yard. And if it is, then we probably, if we're going to approve this as submitted, then we ought to approve it with the recognition that both side yards are non-compliant. Graham, do you know?
I mean, I guess the applicant is not proposing any change to the 9-foot side yard, and the ordinance requirement is 6 feet from one and 10 feet from the other. So, you know, it kind of depends on how you interpret this. You know, this could be, the 9-foot side could be the 6-foot yard that is compliant, and the 4-foot yard could be the 10-foot yard that's deficient. So, you know, in this case, we could look at this as having one deficient yard. In the other case, it could be that, you know, both yards are deficient.
I don't want anything to come back and bite the applicant.
I think as long as the resolution specifies what the existing setback is on the opposite side, I think that that'll be okay, because it clearly will show that we recognize that setback is part of our approval, and others can debate another day whether it did or didn't require a variance, but we clearly approved it with that setback.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
And then the other question, which is the normal question, is there a way of actually retaining 6 foot on that side by insetting the addition slightly? That's the question to the applicant or to the architect.
Well, I mean, it's certainly possible, but not preferable in order to maintain a nice flow to the backyard. It's not a very wide kitchen. It's going to be about 11 feet from the wall to cabinet. And so if we were to bump in, it would give it a bit of a tunnel-like feel. And so really maintaining that line reduces any awkward circulation, but also just makes it feel not so narrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's it for me, Bill.
Okay. Mr. Simon, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Birch, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. McCulloch, do you have any questions?
I just, I understand why, in terms of the extension, clearly from an aesthetic point of view, you wouldn't want to address that setback. But I'm wondering, you have the sliding doors, and I can't see, where do those sliding doors lead, as opposed to the mudroom that also has a door that goes out to a new landing? Why in your design is it necessary to have a home?
So if you were coming up the driveway and you parked along the side of the house, you could enter the mudroom directly from the driveway without having to do a lot of patio stonework and eating up the backyard. Whereas the steps for the gliding doors allow you to come in and out from the kitchen to the backyard. They have a long and narrow backyard. And so there are two separate entries instead of people coming in and out of the backyard or going to and from the driveway aren't getting clogged in the same path.
So there's a patio of some sort that's envisioned coming off those sliding doors?
Well, the patio will probably be closer outside of the mudroom, between those steps and the tree that you see on the right. But the idea is not to eat up too much of the backyard. The patio would mostly be to the right. Also, just functionally, if you wanted to go to take out the garbage would be to the side of the house instead of going out into the backyard and then coming all the way back around. It's just houses of this size, typically, I would say, have two different ways in, one from the side, one from the back.
And how substantial is the mudroom? I mean, compared to the powder room, it seems to be a larger space.
It's about 7 feet by 8 feet. So it has, you walk in and you have cabinets on one side and a bench on the other. The bench looks out, there's windows over the bench, so it's just letting light in from the south. But it's really the door is tightly squeezed between the bench and the wall of cabinets. There's room for 3 or 4 people to come in and put their stuff away, but that's about it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Caulfield, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Actually, Eric, how are you?
Good, how are you?
There's not going to be any windows on that side, are there? On the side back?
Say that again.
Hello?
Windows where?
On the setback on the side of the new kitchen?
Correct. Those will be upper cabinets. But obviously the built-in seating area there's a ribbon of windows facing the side. There's 3 new windows facing the side, even though we're taking away 2 small windows, we're adding 3 large ones along that elevation. That's the range is up against that wall.
And
So
Eric, is there going to be a rail? Do you need a rail for that mudroom? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ms. Gilmore, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I had a question. From what I can tell, the tree looks like it's going to be close to where some of the work will be done. Do you know if the root system will be disturbed by the work?
My guess is that we're at least 10 to 12 feet away from where we're working. So I didn't think that would be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small crawl space underneath the mudroom. So I don't think the landing will disturb it. We wouldn't disturb the roots if, in order to support the deck. There's ways to do that without upsetting roots. But
Right. And if for some reason it were to be disturbed, you would replant another tree in the place where I guess the dying tree would be?
well, I don't think we would disturb the tree. I think in that case, instead of doing a crawl space, we would just pour a slab of concrete at grade and not do the crawl space. We'd figure out a way to do it without disturbing the tree.
For the patio, right?
No, I'm talking about the mudroom. Right
Right.
now, I'm proposing a crawl space underneath it. Suppose there's a possibility that foundation work could disturb the roots. If it was to, I would not build the crawl space and just pour a concrete slab, and that would be the foundation.
Okay.
And so then we were essentially be pouring a slab over the roots so you don't disturb it.
Okay.
It's a more difficult construction, but if we don't want to lose the tree, so that would be a way to save the tree.
Save the tree, right? Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. I have the same concern as Mr. Fleischer on the side of the house where you're putting the addition. Not that I have a problem, but I just want to clarify the dimensions. On the survey, it seems to be indicating that the front of the house is 4.56 feet from the property line, and then at the rear, it's your drawings are showing the existing house being 4 feet 3 inches. It would seem that which is the equivalent of the 4.25, I understand, but the house is at a slight angle, which would indicate that if you make the addition line up with a house, it'll actually get a little closer to 4 feet 3 inches. And I don't want to have you surprised, but your addition is half an inch too close to the property line.
I think when I measured that in the CAD, it might be, it's still above 4 feet.
Oh, it clearly would be about 4 feet, but it's, you're asking for 4 feet 3 inches, and it looks like it'll be slightly less than that.
It's entirely possible. I think it's not more than 2 inches, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a very small amount. I just, I'm trying to figure out how best to word the condition, make it clear so no one fights you over that inch or two.
Right. I mean, it's about the difference between the front corner and the back corner is essentially 3 inches.
Right.
And so now we're going out 10 feet. I mean, it could be 1.5 inches we might be talking about, I think is what.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if that's under a margin of error or.
Oh, it's one of those things that sometimes comes back to bite people in unexpected ways. Okay, I don't know the best way. Are there any other questions from members of the board?
I just want to follow up, Bill. We could probably say shall continue the existing line of the house and get no closer than 4 foot to the property line.
Right. That's what I'm thinking of. I think that solves it. And
I support that completely.
Okay. Graham, you want to unmute the world? And are there any members of the public who either have questions concerning the application or any testimony to give concerning the application? If you have anything whatsoever to say about the application, this is your chance to say something. Okay. Okay. Anything further either of you wish to add before we discuss and vote on the application?
Mr. Schultz or Ms. Turell?
No, I don't.
No?
No.
Okay, we'll start discussion with Mr. Moore.
Okay, I'm in favor of the application. I don't see it as a detriment to society or so, as I stated, I'm in favor.
Okay, Mr. Simon.
Hang on 1 second. I'm just gonna. Mr. Sullivan. Who was the next one? Mr. Simon. Go ahead, Mr. Simon.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the app.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Church.
I'm in favor of the application since that Wendover area, the lots are rather small to begin with. And I believe what the architect just proposed stays within what's there already. Therefore, I vote in favor of it.
Mr. McCullough.
I'm also in favor with the condition that I think the chair will set for the 4 foot proviso.
Okay. Mr. Caulfield.
Mr. Caulfield?
In favor?
Favor. Okay.
Ms. Gilmer,
Yes, I'm also in favor.
Mr. Fleischer,
I'm in favor with the condition that the line of the side yard line of the house continue and get no closer than 4 foot to the property line.
okay. And I'm also in favor of the application. I think the applicant has demonstrated, given the existing location of the house, that they are qualified for a variance and that it will not result in a substantial detriment to the public good or a substantial impairment of the zone plan. And it should have the condition that Mr. Fleischer just stated. Someone want to make a motion to approve the application?
Move
I make a
approval.
motion to approve the application with the restriction that Board Member Fleischer mentioned.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay.
Mr. Church?
Okay, Graham, you want to call the roll?
Sure. Ms. Gilmer?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Caulfields? Mr. Caulfield?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Church?
yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Fleischer?
Yes,
And Mr. Harrison?
Yes. Okay,
I didn't hear you call my name.
Okay, I missed you, Mr. McCullough. Okay. Okay, the application is approved.
All right, thank you, Graham. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
okay. The next application is that of Adam Brinton for property at 818 Valley Road. This is an application for a variance to construct an addition to an existing detached garage. The property is located in the R1 one-family zone. The property is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 4 in Block 1006. The variance is requested from Montclair Code Section 347-46A2 to permit a side yard setback for accessory structures on interior lots of less than the required 6 feet. Taxes paid, and it's a notice in order.
Yes.
Mr. Britton, will you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I swear.
State your name and address, please.
Adam Brinton, 818 Valley Road, Montclair, New Jersey. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Britton, you want to explain what you're proposing to do to the garage?
Sure. My wife and I have a detached garage in the back of the property, and the roof line is very low. We can't fit our minivan in it, and it needs repair. And so when we went to file for the building permits, we found out that because we have less than 6 feet of clearance between the property and the existing garage, that we would need to get a variance to raise the roof line to the permitted 15 feet level. We have a little over 3 feet, 3 feet, 3 inches. And there's an existing pathway and a gate already there between the property line and our existing garage. And to put it simply, we would like to put a new roof on the existing garage that's higher and not change the footprint of the garage at all.
Are there questions from members of the board? Mr. Fleischer?
I do have a number of questions, actually. So I saw the historic preservation report related to the property. So I don't know whether the applicant has agreed to follow the requirements of so that's my first question. Will you abide by the requirements of the Preservation Commission? Which has to do with the configuration, which has to do with the window configurations primarily and the materials.
I apologize. I haven't seen the report. I think it's they asked that the windows be 6/6 pattern to match the existing window, and we would have no objection to doing that. And I believe they asked for the roof to overhang a bit to match the house, the style of the house, and we would have no objection to doing that either.
Okay, let me ask. The other question I have is there are no plans of what you're doing, but you're adding dormers as I understand it. And I have no idea, even for example, which way the dormers are facing from the documents. So I don't know exactly what we're approving.
Sure. The dormers go the length of the garage. The garage is 12 by 20, I think is the measurement. So they go the 20-foot length. So they would not be viewable from the street. Only the front of the garage is viewable from the street.
Well, I'm looking at the elevation. It's certainly viewable from the street.
Oh, yeah.
And they're on both sides as well. So my concern is, frankly, if we're granting a variance to allow for a smaller side yard, and given what I saw was the location of that adjacent structure, the question is, do you really need the dormers? And if you do, can they be only on the side facing into your own yard, as opposed to also facing into the other side yard?
I suppose they could, but I wouldn't, then the roof wouldn't be balanced. And there's no adjacent structure to the garage. It's standalone, I suppose. It's detached, and there's no house next to it or anything.
And the property does rise up in the back, does it not?
It rises up substantially. The back of the garage, there's some pictures in the application. The back of the garage, I stand above it when I'm at on the ground. The garage is built into a slope, into a hill.
I guess what I'm looking at, if you look at the photos you submitted.
Yes.
When I look at the array of photos on the sheet that has the 4 photos that shows the back of the garage, it also shows that structure on that on the right side in the lower right-hand photo. Graham, can you put those up, or you don't have those in there?
The photos? Yes, I have the photos.
All right, keep going. Next, yeah. There's the issue I had was relative to the fact that dormer is literally right on the property line looking into the neighbor's yard. Now, right now, we know that it's being used for storage only. So the question is, why do you need all the windows in there if it's storage only? We're assuming it's not being used for any other purpose other than the storage, and it gets. So I'm raising a question because I have some concern about the privacy of the people in the house next to you as well, in the rear yard.
I understand what you're saying. Currently, though, the garage does have a window facing the rear yard, and currently the elevation from our property is visible to the rear yard, so it's not additional, but the dormers are there to balance out, to provide light inside the garage.
Well, the problem I'm having is this illustration is a bit of a, it's not the actual thing, because the top of this structure was only 12 foot high. So everything you're seeing here is going up by at least 3 foot, plus the dormers. So it's not going to be an insignificant change. I'm just wondering whether you need the windows on the side of the neighbor's yard when you're that close to their yard. That's the question. If you just want some light in there, you can have the windows on one side only. You can still have the dormer on the other, on the south side, but you wouldn't have to have windows in the dormer looking out on the other people's backyard. That's the question I'm asking.
I see what you're saying. I would like to keep it balanced on the sides. I mean, just aesthetically. Do you have an opinion?
Yeah, I'm concerned whether the Preservation Society.
Yeah,
Okay, which one's that?
and the Preservation Society kind of was really concerned that it would balance out and not differ from or look different than the style of the house. So I'd like to keep it on the side, yeah. The whole idea was to raise the bikes on racks and all our stuff on shelves and have the windows in that space. So yeah, I would like to keep the dormer.
So that whole group of 4 windows, which will now be 6 by 6 windows, will be on both sides, that one. That whole group of windows will, which is different. Again, I keep seeing different, I'm sorry to say that, I keep seeing different pictures of what it looks like. Because that shows the dormers quite a bit lower than the 15-foot. But the next illustration I saw, it shows the dormer virtually up at the same 15-foot height.
Yeah, the windows aren't intended to be at the ceiling height. I apologize. I did these myself. So that it's not an architect drawing. It was just supposed to be a representation. The dormers that we're basing it on, the window wouldn't be at the roof line. It would, the roof line on the other image, Graham, the eaves come out a little lower than the roof line and straight.
This photo?
The other drawing that we submitted.
Oh, the other drawing. Hang on one second.
Yeah, it's that one shows the dormers virtually up at the same height as the 15-foot. The next sheet in that set, keep going, I'm sorry, maybe it's not the next one. That one shows that new roof line literally not even in the same direction as the one that's shown on the drawing.
Right, the dormers would come.
The documents don't show what it is we're approving, is what I'm saying right now. Because that's a new that's literally a new extension on the upper floor. It is not what is shown. If you go back to the previous sheet, it is not what's shown on the previous sheet.
The previous sheet being
the front elevation. If you look at what's shown on this drawing, then you look at what's shown on the front elevation, it's just not the same. I don't know how high this thing is for the dormers.
The dormers are supposed to be below the roof line. At least that's what I was told. So I drew them here below the roof line to show that they didn't go to the roof. The windows would be below the roof line, which is why when the windows are on the side view here, they're below. And on the front, the roof line for the dormers, I was told it comes out of the top of the roof and down. So it's showed a little bit lower when you look at the front view of the proposed.
Yes, but the front view shows almost a different kind of roof line than what you're depicting, because the front view implies a totally different roof line, which I'm not understanding. That's what I'm saying. Something is not, the drawings don't come together. The drawings don't work with each other right now. And I understand you're not an architect. I'm not looking for you to spend money on an architect, but the drawings don't tell us what it is that that's actually going to get built. And at some point, someone's going to have to do a drawing to build this thing.
Right. So maybe if I could explain it, I didn't want to change any of the existing footprint, and I just wanted to raise the existing type of roof up by using wood on top of the cinder block garage. And that's what the contractor said he would build up. And then he would just build out dormers on the side. So he said to get approval for the dormers on the sides. And the dormers would be coming out from slightly below the roof line, and the windows on the dormers, which I thought were called eaves, so I apologize. The windows on the dormers would be lower than that, which is why I drew them lower in the diagram. But I could see that I'm not an architect, and I do apologize that it's not accurately depicting the scales that an architect drawing would. But again, I'm not trying to change the existing footprint in any way.
I understand. All I'm trying to find out is what is the actual configuration, and your drawings can't tell me that. That's my problem right now. I don't know what it's going to be like when it's the actual configuration.
Okay.
Well,
So, I think Graham's trying to help me, and I'm
Trying to help out a little bit.
very appreciative. I mean, literally, figurative, the view that Graham just drew is exactly what we're trying to do.
So let me ask you, Graham, since you're designing it, did the side of the dormers come down, or are they straight up and down? Because that's not shown in the documents.
Well, based on Mr. Brinton's discussion with the Historic Commission, he talked about these being essentially a shed dormers with a sloped roof and then a vertical wall, along the face of the dormer on each side of the garage for the extension. There's two vertical wall elements that will be added. One is obviously this area, and then here at the dormer.
Okay.
So, set in.
And how far is that dormer set in from the front and back of this garage?
That wasn't mentioned as part of Mr. Brinton's presentation, I don't believe. But I don't know if Mr. Brinton has more info on that from his work with his
I
contractor.
guess that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know what he's building.
The idea was that it would be built close to the existing roof line. So it would come out somewhat flush, but I think it has to be back just a little bit to connect into the roof.
Well, if it runs the entire length of the thing, then it's not really a dormer.
Oh, no, it can't go the entire length. No, it wasn't. The windows are supposed to be closer, and it does not go the entire length. That's why the drawing that I did showed it not going the entire length.
Right.
And being quite short of the length.
And the drawing shows it a lot lower than the top. That's why I'm having the problems.
Yeah, I understand.
That's why I'm having the problem. I can't understand what it is. I can't understand what it is that's going to look like. And the Historic Preservation Commission is asking you to come back to them as well. At some point, you're going to need a real set of drawings to show them, to show us.
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't, given that it's an existing garage, I really hadn't planned on hiring an architect or doing all this. I'm kind of feeling a little overwhelmed by this. I'm happy to approve anything in terms of the form you want in the dormers. I just want light in there. So if you'd like me to make it smaller, I'm happy to do that. If you'd like me to have it below the roof line like I have it in the diagram, that's fine. It was a little easier at the historical meeting because they understood the structure from the diagram. They were just concerned that when we did it, that the existing roof stops at the current wall to the garage. They wanted an overhang to match the house. So that gives even more room for the dormer to be inset on the roof line.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Moore, do you have any questions?
Do you plan on using the garage as a guest house? What's going on the top portion where the dormers are?
The bike racks are going to elevate the bikes above, and the shelves are going to be above the garage. Currently, the garage is just used for storage, and we can't fit our minivan in the garage because the roof line is too low. The garage, the way it's built, that the minivan just doesn't fit in from the beam where the garage door is. So that's one of the reasons we need to raise it anyway, to just get the car in. And then our bikes and our storage is going to be raised above that so that we can use it for both a car and storage.
will there be a second floor that's enclosed? So someone could actually spend the night in there or no? Okay.
That's not our intent, no.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't make that clear.
Thank you, Adam.
Okay, Mr. Simon, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
No, I have no questions at this time.
Mr. McCulloch, do you have any questions?
Well, yes, returning to the conversation, Mr. Fleischer, I'm wondering, since, your goal is to get light into this garage, so I am wondering if you consider the possibility of simply putting skylights on the roof as opposed to trying to put the dormers, or if from an aesthetic point of view, the dormers are really important to you, on the side that's facing your neighbor, Brown House, or maybe both sides for that matter, have you considered the possibility of putting frosted glass or something that would create a sense of privacy, so that the neighbor doesn't feel as though those windows are infringing upon their privacy, and likewise, they wouldn't necessarily be able to see inside your garage in terms of what you have stored.
Sure. So to answer the first question, the dormers, by going up, provide more storage, whereas the roof at the slant wouldn't let me have the ice in the center and the shelves on the side. And the shelves would be going up where the windows on the dormers side. In terms of the neighbor's privacy, if they like frosted glass, I'm happy to do frosted glass. I could make it like that kind of covering where you can't see through it, like a bathroom window. My neighbors are actually supportive of the project. I could run and get them. They just had a meeting, if you'd like, but I'm not opposed to it if that's a concern. We currently have a total view of the backyard, so it's not, I never really thought of it as a privacy issue because the roof of the garage where those dormers are is for storage and aesthetics. It would be, there's no floor intended in there, so I wouldn't be looking out. That's the kind of thing.
No, I certainly understand that. No, I think it's, I mean, just looking at one of the pictures, I can see, that it appears to be a play area in the neighbor's yard.
Yes.
Am I seeing that correctly? And so, I mean, I think part of what we ought to look at is not only the satisfaction of the current occupant of that house, but taking into consideration, that some future occupant might have some concerns about having windows that look upon their property in such close proximity. And that's why it sounded to me from your conversation that you had a lot of flexibility, both in terms of the design. I mean, you have a particular aesthetic interest, and I get that. And I think that just like the Historic Commission is saying, it ought to complement the main property, the residents. But I think that there are some options that could be explored with reference to how you get light into that space that preserves a sense of privacy for both, frankly. And so that becomes the question. The other question I had for you was just, I couldn't quite tell, looking at the garage, there appears to be a very large tree towards the back of the garage. Is that, I know there's a large building behind.
Oh, that's
Up the driveway.
Bradford School.
Oh, yeah,
That's Bradford School.
That's
Bradford
Bradford School.
Elementary School. Our property adjoins the parking lot and garbage dumpster and service alley for the school. So behind our property is just the school, and in front of our property is the cemetery.
Okay.
The Mount Hebron Cemetery.
Okay. So, but your design, it calls for a window on the back side of this garage too when you elevate it. Is that correct? Or am I not reading that correctly?
I only put one on the front side.
Oh, on the front side. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of thought I could have one on the back side too, but I don't need one on the back side.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Caulfield, do you have any questions?
Hi, Mr. Brinton. How are you today?
Hello. I'm good.
It was funny. I went to the property and I saw the building in the back. It looked exactly like the drawings that were here. So I was like, oh my God, that's kind of crazy. But that's the school's building back there, the one that kind of has the 4 windows aspect of it.
The gray building?
Yeah, it's like a bluish gray building, I thought.
There's a shed. There's a shed in the back. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, but that's
yeah.
our. Yeah.
Oh, that is your shed back there. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
we're.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
I just, because one of the drawings had the dormers with the windows, and it kind of looked like that. So I was just, I thought that it was already built or something.
No.
I would like, yeah. You would be surprised. I agree with my colleagues. I'd like to see some sort of design aspect of this, just because, there's some things that are coming into this height and some other little variables that I'd like to see a little bit more. And it's hard to get it from these drawings that were permitted. But I understand the position that you're coming from, and wanting to do this on a kind of a not an expensive budget, et cetera, but I think just for my sake, to see a little bit more would be a little bit more beneficial. Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Gilmore, do you have any questions?
Sorry, my mouse wasn't working. I just wanted to get an idea. I didn't see anything that showed the distance between the garage and the home, and just kind of try to get an idea of, is that balcony a walkout balcony, or is it just
Yeah.
for design?
On the back of our house, and the diagram that Graham just put up, that's this 2-story frame.
Mm-hmm.
The balcony is, it stretches, there's you start from the left and it goes out, and then it goes down, and then it goes out to the right, and then it goes down. That's all a deck, and that you step out from the house.
Okay.
This
a second
area?
floor,
Yeah.
second floor deck, correct?
That is a wood floor deck, yes.
Yeah, coming from the second story.
Correct, second story deck.
Okay. And what is the distance from the deck to the garage?
The distance from the deck to garage, so the gate is 8, so 12 feet probably.
12 feet, okay.
Actually, probably closer to 14 feet.
Okay, and do you know about the line of sight from the second floor balcony to the raised roof and the dormers?
So if the roof were raised to the proposed allowable 15 feet, it would be, the roof would be below the deck line.
The deck, okay.
Yeah, it'd still be below the deck.
Below the deck, okay.
Yeah, and one of the reasons is because of the way the garage is built into the side of the hill, the slope of the property.
Yeah, I noticed
So
that.
really, at the back of the garage, I stand above the roof, well above the roof. And in the front of the garage, it's a low roof to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have a number of questions. I guess, first, you indicated the Historic Preservation Commission wants the roof line extended out from the building like it is for the house. Is that correct?
That is what they expressed in the meeting so that it matched closer to the look of the house. And I didn't draw it in the diagram because I was trying to keep the existing footprint. And then they let me know that adding the roof extension on the roof out doesn't, apparently it has nothing to do with the zoning. That I don't have to keep the existing footprint for that part of it.
Okay, so do you know how far out you would be extending it?
It's the overhang on the house is about 6 to 9 inches.
Yeah,
So,
this here.
yeah, it's about 6 inches on the inside, and with the trim, it's like 9 inches.
Now, I'm trying to, I mean, I have the same concerns Mr. Fleischer did, but I'm trying to partially get an understanding of what this looks at based, what you're actually going to end up with based on the definition of height in the ordinance. Graham, is it correct that the height will be measured based on the average height going all around the building?
Correct. That's 10-foot intervals around the perimeter of the structure to the peak of the roof.
So based on the significant difference between the elevation at the front of the garage and the elevation at the rear of the garage, the entrance to the garage, the front of the garage, that's going to end up being like somewhere between 18 and 20 feet above grade. Is that correct? We don't know exactly how it's going to be, but just visually comparing the difference between the front and the back, that it'll be several feet higher than the 15 feet.
I think that Mr. Brinton, since you did the plans, I think you can tell us, the existing, this 12-foot measurement that you had on your plans, I think that's the existing dimension. Is that not correct?
The front of the house.
That's I guess the width, the height.
Oh, the height, yes, is 8'4".
Yeah, the height is 8'4" measured at the center.
So that's the existing height from grade at the driveway, at the entrance to the garage.
And the difference between
and your proposed is 15
total
to this peak. So to clarify Mr. Harrison's question, the applicant is proposing a 15-foot height here at the front of the garage, which means that at the let me just draw this. So this will be 15 feet, which means at the rear this will be less than 15 feet. Meaning that under the ordinance measured, rules, the average height of the structure will be less than the ordinance permitted 15 feet. Is that correct, Mr. Brinton, that you're proposing 15 feet here at the front?
I was proposing 15 at the center, measured at the center.
15 here?
Yeah, which is, I thought, how you measured it. But
at the peak.
15 at the center sounds like it would work.
So, yeah, right. We have to talk in 2 dimensions. So let me go back to the plan. So 15 would be to this center here, to the peak.
15 to the peak, yes.
To this peak here, measured to the driveway at the entrance to the garage, correct?
Graham, I'm going to interrupt because this is we're having a conversation which was exactly my concern. I don't know how high or what this thing looks like, period. I don't know where the 15 is measured from, because if I look at his drawings, the 15 shows the equivalent of what 12 was in the other house, which was 3 foot higher than the front of the building. And now we're talking about 15 feet from the middle of the building. So we have no consistency in measurement, drawings, or information. And I don't know how you approve something without that information. I guess that's what because we're not sure what's being talked about. Because that could be, there's a chance that will be 17 feet on the front if we're going to the 15 feet in the middle. I mean, with
We can make it 15 feet from the front. I apologize. I just thought that I was supposed to measure from the center for the
Well,
code.
it's not how it's done, but that probably is effectively what would be how where the 15 feet would end up being. So if it's 15 feet at the center, it probably would comply with the 15 feet in the ordinance, but that would mean the front of the garage would be several feet higher than that.
I think we're mixing up what he means by the center right now even. I think he meant the center of the front of the house. Just the way we're looking at it, the elevation that's there, that what was previously 12 was going to go up to 15. I think that's what he means by the center.
Correct.
That's what I think he means.
That's what I think he means.
Not the way the ordinance is written. And when we're using the word center, we mean the center of the sidewall or the center of the front at the peak. That's why I'm saying we don't know what this is about at the moment, unfortunately.
Okay, Mr. Brinton, let me ask a couple more questions before we get back to this fundamental problem.
Sure.
Will there be any heating or plumbing in the building?
No.
Okay, and then I'm a little confused as to what I'll call the dormer level for one. Will there be a floor there or not?
No floor.
Okay, so it's just going to be a one-story structure that you're getting the extra height so you can do more things as well as drive your existing vehicle into the garage.
Yeah, that was the intention.
So effectively, given it's not a big garage, the bikes, et cetera, would be hanging above the car.
That was the intention, since I had to do the garage roof anyway, and since I had to go through zoning, I thought might as well put the dormers on it so we could use it for the storage too.
What storage? That's the question. I'm not.
Oh, the storage would be on the sides underneath the dormers. So the bikes would hang from the center on raised racks above the car, and the sides of the garage would have shelves built in up into the dormers. Currently, there's not enough clearance in the garage for shelves above.
How do you get up there?
We wouldn't just use a ladder. And the bike racks are like pulley systems that you just have to raise them up, and then they come down on when you raise them, you let them down.
Okay. Let me first see if there's any public comment before we discuss how best we should proceed, but let's see if there's any members of the public here. So if there are any members of the public who either have questions, comments, testimony, anything you want to say about the application, now is your opportunity to say so. Graham, I assume you.
I'm going to unmute all lines. So all lines are open. So if you're a member of the public with a question, you speak up now.
Are the windows facing towards the school? The windows?
Is this a public question or?
Oh, no, this is a board member question.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Moore.
My apologies.
May I answer the question? Or
Hang on one second. Let's just make sure there's no public questions. Last call for any public questions that we have on the line. Okay, hearing none. Okay, we'll go through and reset back up. Okay, Mr. Moore, if you wanted to, I guess, restate your question.
Yes, my question is for Mr. Brinton. Mr. Brinton, the dormer windows, are they facing this, what is it, elementary school or pre-K, I believe?
No.
No, sir. The dormer windows would be facing my property to my left. Yes. The elementary school view, the windows on the side of the elementary school are probably back about 100 more feet, and it's not the classrooms. So
And Mr. Brinton, I've circled the facade in red that's visible from the elementary school, correct?
that's what is visible from the elementary school, correct?
And there will be a window on that side?
I hadn't planned on a window on that side.
Okay, okay,
It'd be nice. I don't need one, no.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. Before I give Mr. Brinton another opportunity, what is the board's preference in terms of how you would want to proceed tonight?
I think unfortunately, we may want to see a rendering that gives us a better view of what you were trying to convey to the board so that all members feel confident about it.
I agree with that. It's kind of difficult to get the full picture without seeing the dimensions and just leaving too much open for us to approve on the record.
And I think it's a good idea, not trying to overwhelm you. I know you said it seems a little overwhelming, but we just want to make sure that whatever's approved, you really know what it is. That's all, But just for the record, I do think it's a good idea what you're trying to do. I need to see some more.
Mr. Brinton, you've heard the comments from the board. I mean, if you want to, you're entitled to have us proceed to vote on the application tonight, or, as several members have indicated, a level of discomfort of being sure what we think we're approving is what you think we're approving. And I think, we're not sure what it is you're asking us to approve, and would feel more comfortable having more specific designs, which, that you're going to have to do for the Historic Preservation Commission anyway. So we know, can verify that what the elevation will be to the peak of the roof at the front of the garage. So, if you're saying that's 15 feet, that gives me a little more comfort in terms of the dormers. But I think we also want to know for sure the relationship of the dormers both to the sides of the garage and how high up in relationship to the peak of the roof they are. I don't know is there other specifics that members of the board want revised drawings to show?
Well, I'm going to say something because I don't understand the storage concept up there. I certainly understand the bikes and the pulleys and everything else because I've seen that in many places. But we're starting to put cabinet, because I originally heard the mention of cabinets and shelving. I don't know how you get to the cabinets and the shelving, because that was going to be, and when I heard there was no floor in there, I was even somewhat more surprised. So I really don't have a sense of what it is. And I'm not sure the applicant knows what he may be getting just working with the builder without having it drawn up completely in advance, so he knows what he's getting, so he knows how he accesses the storage, so he knows how he can access the shelving. So right now, none of that is there, and frankly, it just makes me very, very nervous approving this as it is. So I think the applicant needs to have someone help him think this through and get it put into a form of presentation that shows us exactly what's going to be built. It can be a friend, it can be anybody who can draw it up, but it can't be what we're working off of now, I don't think.
Okay. Mr. Brinton, how would you like to proceed? I mean, as I said, you're entitled to proceed with what you have, or you can ask us to hold off acting tonight so you can come back with a more detailed drawings.
Yeah, we'll go.
Effectively, we have to hire an architect, is that what we're being told?
This is my wife and the owner of the house. So do we have to hire an architect for this? Hello?
Maybe the builder can do the drawings. Maybe the builder can do a real set of drawings. Somebody's gonna have to build it. Someone's gonna have to build it and file it with the building department. So at some point, there's gonna have to be a set of drawings that's needed. I'm just suggesting that you might want to get someone to help you think it through now that knows about both construction and knows what the zoning ordinances is. Because I don't think you're gonna get what you want, and you might get something better if you do that. That's your decision, though.
Yeah, I think you start with your contractor and ask him if he's going to be the one drawing the plans that would go to for the construction permit, because those have to be even more detailed than what we're talking about. And if he feels he can do that, then you may be able to stick with him. If he's going to say, no, I have Joe Smith do those drawings for me, then you probably need to talk to Joe Smith about having those drawings prepared for both us and the Historic Preservation Commission. I don't think it has to be an architect, but it has to, think of it in terms of the plans you're going to need for the construction permit. We don't need a lot of the details there in terms of demonstrating that the walls will support the addition, that kind of thing. But we do need to know exactly where everything's going to be and how high it is. And probably in your interest, I think, get something indicating how the storage is going to work. As Mr. Fleischer said, I think the pulleys are things we have seen. The having jumping up higher than the car and how you're going to access that is, I think, something you should talk to him about anyway.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So my original intent was just to raise my roof a little to get the car in. And then when I found out, because there's less than 6 feet on the side, even though it's an existing structure, I can't just raise to the permitted 15 feet in height without going through the zoning. So since I was going through the zoning, I thought, okay, I'll just add the dormer so I have more storage. If I just kept the existing roof, would I have to go through the same process again? Because I'm not changing the garage, so I'm a little bit.
When you say keep the existing roof, are you saying not raise the roof any higher and keep it the same? If you make no changes to the structure, there's no issue.
The roof is like 8 feet 4 inches. I can't get the car in there.
Once you raise the roof and hence the wall it's raising the wall underneath it is what's creating a new encroachment into the setback. We understand you're keeping the same distance, but because the wall on that side of the garage will be higher, that's a new setback that requires a variance from us.
Okay.
So you're here regardless. So your basic idea of you have to be here anyway, so why not do a little more than just raising it, was a logical conclusion on your part. But we need drawings that help us understand, so we're sure, and you heard the prior application we did, to be sure what we're granting is what you want us to approve or what we're willing to approve, and there's no doubt in anyone's mind as to exactly what it is we're approving, and all the dimensions are clearly set forth.
Okay. Can I ask another question, since I'm going to have to now hire an architect and all this? So it sounded like a bunch of the questions were whether I was going to live in this or there's a floor. Would the board just generally, is that okay? Because then if I have to go through this process, I was trying to avoid that. But if I have to
I mean, the reasons those were being asked, I mean, when we have had people who coming in, expanding their garages, so there's an upper level, you're saying there wasn't a floor, solve that. But those were we normally put a condition on that says no heating, no plumbing, to make sure that it can't be used as, residential space. That would raise you would need a bunch of different additional variances to do that.
You probably wouldn't get that. So that's not why we asked the question.
Oh, okay.
The question, make sure you weren't doing that.
Okay. So if I have to come back and you're not meeting in August and you're not meeting probably till September, I guess is what was said.
September 16th.
I'm just trying to get my roof repaired before September. It's not, I can't get this.
I'll just come back.
Okay. So I guess we'll come back and try to have more detailed plans. If I just put a floor in there for storage, is that okay though?
Yes, I mean, we're going to condition it to make sure it doesn't become living space, but we have had other applicants do. I'm not guaranteeing an approval, but that's not inherently prohibited.
Okay, because that would just make it easier in terms of drawing this up, the contractor said. But we were trying to make it just in the garage to make it easy for zoning. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Brinton, just so it's clear on the record, you're requesting we carry the application to our next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, please, and I'll submit more detailed drawings for your next meeting.
Graham, do we need an extension of time?
Let me just check on that. 1 second. Just give me one moment.
I mean, Graham, I think it's best we get an extension.
Yes, we do need an extension of time. Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Britton, you'll consent to an extension of time for the board to act until that September 16 meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and just Mr. Britton, the plans will need to be delivered by September 6th, assuming that's a weekday, if not the first weekday before that.
It's a Sunday.
Okay, so it should be that the Friday before that.
4th. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for members of the public, the application of Adam Brinton for property at 818 Valley Road is being continued to our meeting on September 16th. There'll be no further notice of the application. Presumably, the hearing on that date will be another virtual meeting. If it's not, the board will advertise if we're having a in-person meeting, but I'd say that is highly unlikely at this point. There'll be no further notice on the township website. There will be the information as to how you can connect to this meeting either by computer or by phone. So you'll have to check out on the township website how to connect to the September 16th meeting. Okay, so Mr. Brinton, we will see you on the 16th. First, start talking to your contractor about what he's capable in terms of doing plans, and if not, go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next application is that of Malgorzata Dolgan, owner of property at 10 Washington Street. This is an application for a variance to construct a new two-family dwelling on the subject property. Property is in the R2 two-family zone district. Property is designated on the township tax maps as lot 16 of 3010. A variance is requested from Montclair Code Section 347-188, 18B, I guess that is, to permit a lot width of 31 feet, whereas the required minimum lot width is 60 feet. A variance is requested from Montclair Code Section 347-45B1 to permit a front yard setback for principal buildings of less than the required 25 feet. A variance is requested from Montclair Code Section 347-45C1 to permit a side yard setback for principal buildings of less than the required 6 feet. Variance is requested from Montclair Code Section 347-45E to permit a maximum building coverage of greater than the permitted 25%. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
The applicant's present. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth of the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Malgorzata Dolgan, 46 West Valley Brook Road, Long Valley, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Ms. Dolgan, you want to explain how you came to this point and what you're doing now with the property?
Yes, of course. I don't know if you remember, but we met with the same application back on December 18th of last year. Back then, the board approved the following variances because it's undersized lot. So the board approved the front yard variance to permit less than 25 feet, 2 side yard variances to permit less than 10 and less than 6 feet. And the board approved the variance for the maximum building coverage to permit 31% coverage where 25% is required. The reason why I'm here today is because once I started the construction and excavating of on the property, once I got my permits, I discovered that foundation under the existing part of the building was almost non-existing. In some areas, the foundation, the footing was only 2 feet deep. In some areas, it was 3 feet deep. In some areas, it was so deteriorating that I don't even know how the structure was standing on it. So the reason why I'm here is because I am proud of what I do, and I want to build, in good craftsmanship, in good manner. And I would like to ask the board to permit me to rebuild that foundation, meaning build a new foundation. I'm not asking for any other changes. That the foundation that was there there is no way I can save it, and there's no way I can build on it. So I would like to put a new foundation in exactly the same location where the old one was. And that's why I'm here today.
Are there questions for the board?
What is this addition 427 square feet that I see? Is this an additional concrete slab on top of the existing footprint, or is this?
This is, Mr. Chairman, this is the addition that I proposed and was approved back on December 18th. It's a new addition, new part of the building. The existing building is the building in that little cloud.
Okay.
Okay, let clarify legally where we are. We approved a variance for the addition back in December. Because the applicant to demolish the entire building, we are reviewing the entire building now. It is, so she needs a variance for the entire structure at this point. The series of variances, it's as if the building was not there. So, okay, Mr. Fleischer, do you have any questions?
Mr. Fleischer, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I guess my question is, in a sense, what I'm hearing is we're really starting from scratch, because she gets no benefit from that particular original footprint. Is that my understanding, Mr. Harrison?
Oh, she is constructing a house on the property. There's nothing stopping us from considering or not considering that there was a house on the property.
Okay.
A few months ago, but it's
okay.
The house is not grandfathered in any sense.
Okay. I guess my question is, why? My question is most basic of all. Why start with the original plan when, regardless of what variances we grant, why wouldn't one design something from scratch that recognizes that it's a 31-foot wide lot and put in a building? I mean, why is there a setback between one part of this new building and the other part of the new building? It seems to me that I'm asking why it isn't being viewed holistically, as if there was nothing there to begin with, because the fact that there was something there before offers no advantage to the applicant. And I'm wondering why not consider a different form that is more uniform for the entire building itself, as opposed to having, you know, what was once there as one building, and then as if there was an addition to it as a second building. I'm not understanding the logic of doing it, other than perhaps speed, but it seems to me that it's not a logical way to approach a 31-foot wide lot if we're not dealing with the existing structure. So I have a real concern about starting from the standpoint as if it was emotionally or mentally, as if it was still standing there. So I'd like to hear the applicant's reason for starting at that point, as opposed from rethinking it within the context of a new building within a narrow lot and coming up with a design that really is consistent and works nicely for that particular site.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Church.
Yes, Mr. Church. Right now, there's just a hole in the ground. There's nothing there. So my feeling was that what we're doing is we're looking at a new set of plans for a new building. The old building is not there anymore. It's gone. All that's back in that property are cinder block walls across the back of the property. If you go look at it. But what she's proposing, I assume, maybe I'm dead wrong, but what she's proposing is to build a new building in that vacant lot that's dug out already. Am I correct that that's just going to be a new building?
Yes.
Are we relying on the drawings that we approved in December?
Okay.
Or are these drawings different? Am I right or wrong?
Okay, Ms. Dolgan, are these drawings basically the same as what we?
Yeah, the drawings are basically the same. The layout is basically the same. I already put foundation for the addition that was approved back in December. And the only reason why I found out about how bad the original structure was is when I tried to attach the new addition footing to the old footing. There was nothing to attach it to. So that's why I kind of continued with the old drawings, because I already had them, and also because the addition was already dug out and the footing was done. I continue with the old design, and that's why I'm asking the board just to approve the new foundation with the old drawing.
Well, so what we're looking at is a new building going up because the old foundation was taken out. You want to put a new foundation in using the same dimensions and drawings for the building that you presented to us in December.
Yes, because I couldn't save the old foundation. There was almost none.
I understand that. By looking at the property, there's nothing there. It's just a hole in the ground.
Correct.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
If we already gave the variances for the previous design, then what is different now? Like, what is if the dimensions from the foundation are following the old plans, what is the new variance that we're trying to approve here?
Well, the difference is that the application that was previously approved was an addition to an existing building. That building is now gone. So you have a lot that is essentially undeveloped. So it's a different application. You may view it as being, meeting the variance criteria, but it is a different application and she needs new variance.
Okay, so it's considered a new variance, but some of the but it's the same conditions in terms of the side yard because of the dimensions of, she's copying the previous dimensions.
You may determine that there's a hardship based upon the lot width and these variances are needed and appropriate, but she needs new variances because of the fact that the building is now gone.
Right, and just to follow up on that, we did not give a variance for the existing structure. So she had set back the addition further from the east side of the property than the existing structure was. So we did not give a variance. She's now seeking a variance for 0.9 feet from the eastern side. We did not grant such a variance before because it was not necessary. So that's a new variance. I mean, I think the best way to look at this is a property that's across the street, which had two family houses on it, each on a lot. They came in, their intention from the beginning was to demolish those structures, and we ended up approving new structures with a bunch of variances, but it wasn't a given that they got to keep the same encroachments that the prior houses had.
I got you.
When you had the inspection done on the home, did the inspector not notice that the foundation wasn't in good condition?
You mean like a home inspection?
Right.
No, because there were so many things in the basement that you couldn't even see the condition of the foundation. You could barely even get into that basement.
Interesting. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I can't imagine that we would approve a new building with less than a 1 foot dimension from the property line. If we have to view this as a new building, we can't view it as if we're replacing the existing piece with a new building that has even more, that's even wider than the addition we approved. The sense that we should approve something with less than a foot, with the kind of mass we're talking about, with less than a foot from a property line is not something I think we can do. We might think it's okay, as in the first one, to have 6 foot on one side and 3.5 foot on the other side. That's possible. We could end up there. But we shouldn't be thinking about building a new building and putting it less than a foot from the property line. I mean, that's my sense. And I think that kind of precedent is very bad for a whole variety of reasons. And in the past, when applicants have come back and said, our foundations aren't quite good, we'd like to take down the existing building and build it new, we've been in a situation where we said, no, you're not going to do that, because the very reason we allowed that building to be where it was because it existed. If we take a different approach here, simply saying that because the old building had been there, that we let the new one in, it's the same that we do with garages. If it was 6 inches away, we don't approve a new garage 6 inches away. We say, no, we think it's got to be at least 3 foot away. I think this is a very slippery slope if we just take the old plans with the existing dimensions of that old building and apply it to a totally brand new building. I think there's a real danger there. I'd like to hear the applicant go further. My understanding is the only thing that's at risk now is that she's built a certain amount of foundation for the addition, and therefore doesn't want to have to change the plans or come back with a different set of plans. And I can understand that, but that's an investor's risk when they take this kind of property on and this kind of project on. I think it would be very dangerous for us to simply approve the old footprint because it had been there. Because then you can have that with almost any structure that comes before us that has an existing footprint, and then they literally take everything down, period, and then say, I still want that, all the rights that the old property had. I think that's a dangerous thing, and that worries me a great deal if we do that.
Okay. And Ms. Dolgan, do you want to, give an explanation as to why you're seeking the various variances?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Mr. Chairman. Can you please repeat?
What is your justification? Do you have any justification for the variances you're seeking other than the, that you want to match the footprint of what was there?
Not really, Mr. Chairman, no. I mean, what I can do, I can, if with your permission, of course, maybe on the left-hand side where the side setback right now is only 8 inches on the front of the property and 9 inches on the back, I could push that whole wall to the right and do what we call that workable setback and have 3.5 feet. Push that whole left wall of the existing, exactly, right. Thank you, Graham. And give it more workable setback then. Because then I can still work within those parameters with the design I have.
Okay. I mean, you've had a number of applications in this neighborhood, and I don't know. Partially, I'm not trying to push you into something tonight before you have a chance to think it through, but have the building widths varied on the different projects you've already done?
Yes, they have.
Okay, so and the we the first time through, and I don't think the circumstances is, and other board members may have different views. We let you put on the front porch of the house, so it's the same distance as the house next door that we ended up giving a subsequent variance for. But I think there was a logic to what we did with the addition and the setbacks of that, but it may make sense to do that in a somewhat different configuration, so it lines up better with a reduced width, what I'll call, where the original house was. But I mean, I don't have a problem if all you want us to do is consider the same thing, but with 3 feet further over, or with a 3-foot setback, whichever, or you want to look at this and come up with a floor plans that make sense and ask for variances based on that. I really don't want to see how many applications we can do in September, but on the other hand, I don't want you to end up with something that you're uncomfortable with.
Mr. Chairman, I can work with 3.5 feet short, I mean, more narrow building, and I can make the design work. I can make it work. With your permission, I would like you to take a look at it with 3.5 feet setback, and I can make the rest of it work.
Okay, so I'm understanding, and it's clear, you're proposing you would keep on the eastern side of the property a 3.5-foot setback for the portion of the building that is replacing the house that was there, and you would be keeping the 6-foot setback on the eastern side for well, at that, what was originally the addition, but now is going to be simply part of the new building. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, yes.
And you would be keeping it's 3.6 feet in the front and 3.58 feet in the rear on the western side of the building.
That's correct, 3.58, yes.
And you're keeping the same front setback that you approved originally, would be that you're proposing the same.
That's correct.
Okay, just one other question on that. I'll turn it over to other board members. And that, my guess, but I don't know if anyone can calculate while others are talking, that you'll still need a lot coverage variance, but it will clearly be less than what?
I can call.
Okay. So now that we know how the applicant is proposing to modify the application, Mr. Fleischer, do you have any questions?
I would not, I will tell you again, I'm not in favor of the application under those. I don't think 3.5 foot on each side is acceptable. I like the notion of the addition being at least 6 foot on one side and 3.5 on the other. To have these structures basically 3.5 foot on both sides, I think is a mistake. And I would not be in favor of it even with that thing. I think, you know, I've lived in cities with townhouses that are 20 foot wide and 21 foot wide, beautiful, wonderful buildings and structures. They work beautifully. You could do a front and back townhouse here. We're doing this essentially to save the new foundations that have been put in for an addition. I just think it's wrong. It's one thing to save an existing structure and say we're doing something that has history to it and everything else. It's another thing to just set an arbitrary 3.5 foot on that side when for the addition where you wanted it 6 foot away. Something's not right about it. I personally would rather see this applicant look at the project again and try to do something that's maybe a little deeper onto the lot, but is narrower. And as I say, there are beautiful townhouses built all over this world and all over the country that are 25 or 21 foot wide or 20 foot wide. I think this would be a mistake to merely adapt or try to adapt the old plans to make this work. To me, doesn't make sense, and I would not be in favor of the application.
Okay, we're still trying to see if there are other questions. Mr. Moore, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do not. I've
Okay,
asked my questions.
Mr. Simon?
Yeah, just by cutting it in 3 feet, you have a double door design in the front, so you would have to change the whole design of the front of the building because you would have I guess you're cutting into the staircase if you're shortening the 3 feet, correct?
Go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I would have to move the staircase.
Well, I have to agree with my colleague. I mean, this is essentially a complete redesign, and you're essentially starting with a blank slate. So I would also have an issue with you just trying to force this design when you have an opportunity to really explore different options. So that's just where my head is at the moment. So no other questions.
Okay, Mr. Church?
Yeah, after listening to some of the discussion, I would think that a new application with a new design would be in order here. Even though Mr. Fleischer's comments concerning the width of a building, if you look at the two across the street, they're long and narrow, but they accommodate 4 families. So I think that was a success. And I think if you could come back with a different set of plans that would accommodate your end goal, then I I would be more inclined to look at that objectively. Right now, I just can't seem to squeeze this in.
Mr. McCullough?
Yeah, the question I have is actually about the property next door, lot 15, the White House. Is that house currently occupied?
Which property are you referring to?
The White House, based on the picture that we have.
Is it the dwelling to the right?
Yeah, it's lot number 15.
It's the one we gave a variance to a month.
It's 12 Washington. Ms. Dolgan is currently renovating that, I believe, as well.
Okay,
Right,
she is renovating.
That's the one we gave a variance and said the parking had to conform or she had to come back.
So we're still waiting for her to come back.
Or she's gonna make the parking conform, one or the other. You know, but for the improvements to the house, those are all approved by us.
Because I guess the question that I have is, I mean, given the fact that she owns both pieces of property, whether or not she can look at those in a way in which the one actually complements the other. Because it is a very narrow lot, and I would agree with Mr. Fleischer. You know, I think this beckons an opportunity to do something radically different than what we were considering previously. So I would be hard pressed to support simply maintaining the original design.
Okay, Mr. Caulfield?
You say Mr. Caulfield?
Yes.
Oh, that's sorry. You know, the 3.5 I'm kind of in favor of. I mean, it's a 30-foot lot. I mean, having them do the 6-foot is a little aggressive, I feel like, because this is just an undersized lot. I guess I can find myself going to the 3.5, but I think she's just saying yes, not understanding the staircase and all of those other things. And I think that she could have taken advantage of making this a better property in the long run, rethinking it and that type of thing. I'm liking the 3.5, but you know, I'm still on the fence about yes or no. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Gilmer?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. I mean, Ms. Dolgan, I mean, my basic view is taking a fresh look at this would be beneficial to you as well as to the board, and, you know, look at both what you've done on other properties in terms of the width of the buildings, look at the two new ones across the street where they were confronting the same issue and what they did on their width of the buildings versus the lot widths. And, you know, I think, you know, clearly the dimensions of the lot will require us granting some variances. It's a question of, do they make sense when you're not working in the context of there's an existing house on the lot? And you know, as I indicated to the prior applicant, it's your choice as to whether you want to proceed tonight with your modified plan based on the comments you've heard, or whether you want to come back and with a, you know, rethought plan where you have a little more time to think about what you want to do on the lot.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. The buildings across the street are really nice, and I considered doing something similar. However, they are 71 or 73 feet deep. This building is only 47 feet deep. I know how last time we were going for a variance, the board members were concerned with the addition not sticking out through there, then building on the left and then building on the right and then the church. I would love to do something like what we have across the street. But once again, those buildings are 70 feet deep. And if the board members and you, Mr. Chairman, are okay with that, I agree with you. It's a beautiful design, and I would love to explore it. But my only concern with that was then I am going to be about 25 feet past the existing church and existing building on the left.
Right, and I'm not, I'm more looking at it in terms of you're looking at the width that they propose versus the width of those lots. I mean, they had some issues and they were providing parking in the rear. You know, I think what Mr. McCulloch said in terms of having this building fit in with the building next door makes more sense than having it duplicate the architecture of the buildings across the street. But you know, I think looking at those in terms of the types of relief we're willing to grant, but you know, we are going to look at this in terms of how it relates to its neighbor, which we just approved a variance for. And you know, since you own both properties, you have an opportunity, you know, and to try and be clear, at least as to my opinion, if across the street they had come in with two totally different designs for the two different buildings, I think we would have had a problem with that. So it makes sense for the design of this building to be closer to that of the, you know, the building on the right side as you face the lot that you're currently renovating, and make sure it fits in with that building rather than trying to make it fit in with the others. But, you know, all I'm saying is looking at those in terms of the type of relief we granted, but you have to consider the characteristics of the lot in the context they're fitting in with.
I would like to come up with a new design. Can we do it as a continuation and I can get in for September hearing?
Yeah, I mean, assuming okay, so let's do this. Yes, however, if you're doing any additional variances that you're not currently seeking, you will have to notice for those. So, you know, if suddenly you're now requesting a rear yard setback that you're not currently requesting, you would have to renotice because that's new and different from what the current notice provides.
Sure, I understand.
You nodded your head, so I'm assuming you're in agreement with that.
Graham, I don't know if the board members can hear me.
They can.
Yeah, yes, I'm in agreement with that. Yes, that most likely I will need the rear rear setback variance, and I will send notices for that.
Okay, but just to, in case you not to, we're going to continue the public hearing for the Dolgan application at 10 Washington Street. Unless the applicant requires additional variances, there will be no additional notice. If additional variances required, the applicant will provide full notice. The hearing is being continued until the board's meeting on September 16th. In order to access the meeting, presumably will be a virtual meeting, and any members of the public who are interested will have to go to the township website to get the information as to how to log on either by computer or by telephone to that meeting. It will be somewhat different than the login for the current meeting. And I assume we should do an extension of time.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Dolgan, you'll consent to an extension of time for the board to act until that September meeting date?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, before we leave this application, did you want to see if there are any members of the public who had any questions or anything on this?
Yes.
Before we leave this matter? Okay,
Yes.
so all participants, I'm going to unmute the lines. If you have a question for this applicant, please let us know. I'm unmuting all lines at this time. If you have a question, please let us know. Okay.
Okay, does the board want to take a break or plow through?
Plow through.
Out there.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dolgan.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, the next application is that of Watchung Property Associates LLC. This is for property at 94 Watchung Avenue. This is an application to construct an addition to the existing two-family dwelling on the property and construct a new detached garage in the rear of the property. The applicant has applied for a variance from Montclair Code Section 347-50 to permit lot width of 41 feet, whereas the ordinance requires a minimum lot width of 60 feet. Okay, I'll leave it there. Are taxes paid and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay, you want to give us your appearance?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Alan Trembulac appearing on behalf of the applicant, which is Watchung Property Associates LLC. This is an application for variances in connection with my client's proposal to renovate and expand the existing two-family dwelling on property at 94 Watchung Avenue. The property is located in the R2 two-family zone. As I indicated, it's currently a two-family dwelling, and it will continue to be a two-family dwelling after the improvements are completed. There are a number of existing nonconformities which are not really affected by this application, including a non-conforming lot width of only 41 feet. And I believe, as I think will become clear, that there's really only one additional, perhaps two additional variances, both being fairly minor, required for this project. So I'd like to begin by calling the project architect, Gennaro Salerno.
Mr. Salerno, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Am I in video yet or not?
You're not on video.
Okay, I know. Let's see. Can you see me?
Yes.
We can see you now, yes.
Okay, I do.
And could you state your name and address, please?
My name is Gennaro Salerno, 49 Derwent Avenue, Verona, New Jersey.
Mr. Salerno, you're a licensed or registered architect in the state of New Jersey, is that correct?
Correct.
Go ahead, Mr. Tremblay.
Yes, and you prepared the plans that were submitted to the board and that are shown on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, why don't you review the plans for the board and perhaps start by discussing the existing building.
Okay. The existing building is a 2.5-story building. It has an apartment on the first floor. It has 2 bedrooms. It has another one on the second floor with the same amount of bedrooms. And then there is an extra bedroom and living areas on the attic, the half-story. The property it's narrower than what the variance requires right now, and the house is about let me see, the width of the house is about 26.7 feet, and that makes it exactly the required width by the zoning, like the 65%. The front of the house is typical to many different houses in that block. There is a porch in the front. The house needs needs a lot of attention. My client purchased this house recently and is committed to improve the whole property.
Can you, before you talk about the new plans, can you just indicate the side yard setbacks for the existing structure as shown on the survey?
Yes. It's difficult to read, but let me get my plan and zoom it in. So the existing survey that is displayed there has the front setback is shown of 43.07 feet. Then the survey also shows that the right setback is 7.41. However, it doesn't take advantage that bay. Doesn't take into consideration that bay. The bay is it's about 5.17 feet from the property line. On the left side, the existing setback to the left property line is 8.67 feet.
Okay. All right. Can you, and there's a driveway that's shown on the left side of the property, is that correct?
Correct. There is a driveway that is mainly on property line, and actually it goes out of the property line. It goes about 1.15 feet on the neighbor's property, as you can see.
Okay. All right, then why don't you go on and talk about the plans you've prepared for the renovated building?
Okay. Also on the same page, we can see the new or the proposed side plan. The right side stays the same as we have it now. The setback, the right setback is 7.41, and also 5.6 at the bay, just like the existing. On the left side, the existing house stays where we have it, where it's located now, is 8.69 feet. However, the addition, either the front part that is about 6 feet from the existing building, and the rear part, they are larger. They are further away from the property line. It's about 10 feet, 10.9 feet from the property line. That's right. That line there. So we are improving whatever portion is proposed. It's improving a little bit more over the existing. So if we go to the next page, if we look at the next page, okay, there you go. Let me see my so I can zoom in and get it.
Which section, Mr. Salerno, would you like me to zoom?
Okay. Yes, we can zoom to the first floor plan, detail 2. Okay, so this is the first floor plan. In the first floor plan, we have an entrance to both units. The stair at the left goes to the floor, basically the attic floor, and then you enter to the main unit. This unit has, in this floor, has living room, kitchen, basically the living areas, has a pantry, has 2 half bathrooms, has an office, and a little kitchenette in the back just to service the deck that we have in the back. There is an internal stairs that take us to the second floor, and the second floor is detail 3 on the same page. On this floor, we have 3 bedrooms. and 2 full bathrooms. And then the floor above, which is considered a half floor because it's about a tiny little bit less than 75% of the floor below. This one, we also have three bedrooms, and this has 3 full bathrooms, besides kitchen and living area. And this is the
Okay, can you,
sorry, go ahead.
is there anything more you wanted to say about the building? Otherwise, I would ask you to just describe what's planned for the rear of the property.
Correct. The rear of the property, we are going to have a detached garage. Well, first at the rear, we're going to have a deck. After the deck, and it's depicted here, we have 3 parking spaces. After the 3 parking spaces, we have a 20-foot area that allows cars to come in and out of the garage, and then we have a 2-car garage.
Okay. And the parking spaces that are shown on the plan, the 3 parking spaces that Graham just marked, are they set back at least 4 feet from the property line?
Yes, they are set back from the right property line 4 feet, 4.31 feet, I'm showing.
And then the garage, I assume the garage is set back, I guess at least 4 feet.
Yes.
From the side yard. And then you indicated that the existing driveway is, well, what are you showing in terms of the driveway to the rear, in the rear of the property? The existing driveway is going to be extended, is that correct?
Correct. What we are doing is, if you see where you have the pencil, there is a dashed line that is the existing garage that is going to be demolished. So from there, I go in 1 foot, and then I continue towards the back.
Okay. And the 1 foot driveway setback complies with the ordinance requirement, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. One other question. With respect to the building width and the 65% maximum required by the ordinance, I think your original plans had indicated that the proposal was going to be slightly non-conforming
by 0.8%, correct. But
okay, and then the revised plans that were submitted indicated that the lot width is now 26.7 feet, which complies. Is that right?
Yes, yes. The survey was not dimensioned, so I had that discrepancy that then I went again to the field and I confirmed that that was the actual dimension.
Okay, so there's no variance required for building width in your opinion, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then with respect to the setbacks, you indicated that the new addition will comply with setback requirements. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and
One
then
side,
with respect to the existing house, you're going to add some additional height to that structure. Is that right?
yes, we are going to, yes, the new building is going to be higher than the old building.
And you're proposing that the sidewalls of the original building, as expanded upward, will align with the existing sidewalls of the house, correct?
Correct.
And that triggers a variance because those existing side yards are non-conforming, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I have for Mr. Salerno, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fleischer, do you have any questions?
I'm just not, I guess it's almost like the last question. The question is, are we going to actually be able to save this existing house, or is it not being saved? Is it essentially a brand new building on the site?
Well, the inside we're demolishing, I would say 90% of the wall. On the outside, I had the choice of leaving 2x4s and sister 2x6 that are higher, but I thought that didn't make sense. So my recommendation is to just remove the exterior 2x4s and put 2x6. The reason is because of the energy code. The house would be more energy efficient if I use 6 inches versus the 4 inches. And
So
of course,
I guess that automatically leads into my next question. If this is essentially being rebuilt inside and out, then why can't we get the house narrow enough to meet the yard requirements without having to grant the variances for the yard? I mean, that's the basic question that we've been faced with on more than one application tonight. If this is, in essence, a new building, the front is new because the porch and everything is going away. You'd like to rebuild the sides anyway because you don't want to really use the 2x4s that are there. You want to use 2x6s. I can't imagine, and if 90% of the interior is being redone, I can't imagine that we can't find conforming side yards in this 41-foot lot, because with conforming side yards, you still have a 25-foot wide building. And you're only talking about a 26-foot wide building at the widest point now. So I'm trying to understand, if you really want to rebuild it, what is the reason to, I mean, you're picking up a few inches, but you want to rebuild it anyway. So space is either coming out of the inside when you're going to the widest. I just don't understand why this doesn't give you the opportunity of building a very nice building on this site with conforming yards, and that you could do virtually anything from day one. I'm not understanding the complete logic when I look at the changes on the interior, which are virtually all the stuff there. And you yourself have acknowledged that the outside walls would be better at 2x6 than 2x4. Why aren't we building that building? We're virtually starting from scratch anyway. I'm not understanding why we don't do it the right way and build a new building that conforms at least with the yard lines and move forward with it on that basis. I'm not quite understanding it.
It's a very good question, and we actually dwelled on that possibility. I thought first that that would make sense. Then I looked at the basement. I see that it is an older house, and if I move that foundation wall in, I'm not really sure how many surprises I'm going to find. And then I'm afraid I'm going to end up basically removing, half of the foundation, because as I move something, I have to tie it, the corner breaks, and then a lot of surprises come.
Yep, I understand the reasoning. Let me ask one other question. Is the only way up to the attic apartment through the one stair that is literally a cascading stair from the attic floor all the way down to the first floor, and that's the only way in and out of the apartment, is that one stair?
Correct.
And how, do you subdivide the stair? I mean, maybe it meets code, but that would surprise me. You're going up probably 25 feet or so, and that's the only way in or out of this building. So if this frame building catches on fire, how does the person who has their apartment only on the third floor come down?
Well, what the building code requires is to have egress windows, right, on bedrooms. Actually, the windows that we are placing are casement, and they are actually all the windows are larger than egress. So that I would think that would be the way. I haven't done a two-family house recently that would have two different stairs, right? It used to be that towns would require maybe a fire escape, but
I mean, the answer is if it meets code, I guess it'll meet code. I'm just concerned about that kind of length of run. And I presume you can put the multi hours of wall ratings between the stairs and everything else, but that's going to certainly create a pretty thick wall as opposed to two back-to-back units, one entered from the back, one entered from the front, and then they each have their own, almost like two buildings on the first floor. But that's your decision, that's fine. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Moore, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Mr. Simon?
Clarification. In the description for the project, it says the second unit would be a 2-bedroom, but the diagram shows a 3-bedroom. Is that a change, or was that an oversight?
The plans that you have were changed. The plans that were changed from the plans that were originally submitted, and this report is of the first submission.
Yes, and I apologize. I wasn't able to update my initial report. So the 3rd bedroom of the 2nd unit was while I was away.
Okay. No other questions right now.
Okay, Mr. Church?
I have no questions.
Mr. McCulloch?
No questions.
Mr. Caulfield?
Just one question. The kitchen that you have on the first floor, it's kind of tight and the office is giant. Is there a reason why you have it that way?
Well, if you see the kitchen, the main kitchen is on the front, not on the front of the house, but you have the living room, and then there is a kitchen. Whatever is in the back, it's just that.
Oh, yeah, that's a kitchenette. Yeah. What is that? Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Gilmore, do you have any questions?
No, I'm okay. Is that a hot tub in the deck? I just wanted to find that.
No.
No. What is it?
I have another question when the opportunity arises.
That's a design. It's a couple of steps higher. That's all.
Okay, and it's just that's an opening there.
No, there is no opening. It's just an octagon raised a couple of steps.
Okay. And last question, is that bathroom in the basement existing?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Is there a bathroom in that basement today?
There is a bathroom, yes. No, today no. That's a new bathroom.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Gilmore, do you have any questions?
None at this time.
I have another question, Mr. House, maybe come back.
Mr. Fleischer?
Can we look at the first floor plan again? Just essentially the first floor plan.
The first floor, yes.
Yeah, I see a kitchen, then I see an office, and then I see a kitchenette. Can somebody explain that to me? Because we have multiple kitchens in there and a separate entrance for that back area, which is called an office, and even doors that separate it from the rest of the house, and a kitchenette added there. Just can you clarify that?
Yes, and this is something that I know this owner is a friend of many years, and we do a lot of barbecues. I'm from Argentina, he's from Dominican Republic, and usually one of the things that the houses lack is when you go inside the prep area. That's what basically is. It's a prep area for whatever is going to happen at the deck.
Thank you.
Just, I want to go over what variances are still being sought. Can you go over what you still need a variance for?
Okay. So let me just read from the original report. It says that Montclair Code 347-18E, the required variance for minimum lot width. So then we need the minimum lot width. We need variance for minimum side yards. Then the next one, we don't need the building width. And then we have minimum setback of, well, there is one of the variants that was mentioned here. Is a setback for the off-street parking areas. Right? But we saw, and if we can see the proposed plot plan, the actual parking is a little bit over 4 feet. Now, from the right side, from the left side, it's basically maybe a matter of interpretation. It's just a driveway that goes to the garage. So you can interpret that is part of parking and say it needs to be 4 feet, or you can say, well, that is just the driveway and 1 foot would be okay.
And just for the benefit of the board, and as part of my preparation of the planning report that accompanied your application materials, the department views, this area to be a parking area, so that 1 foot setback is deficient and not a 4 foot setback for the parking area. That's why we've identified it as a variance.
Okay. I want to be sure we're all on the same page. So it's the two variances that are needed now, and not the building width variance. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I don't have any further questions. Are there any members of the public who have any questions concerning the application?
Okay, so all attendees, I'm going to unmute all the lines here in the meeting. If you do have a question, please speak up and we'll be sure to get you addressed. So all the lines are now unmuted.
Okay, any members of the public who have questions about this application for this witness?
I do have some questions. I don't know if you can see.
Okay.
We have one. Oh, yes. Okay. Lisa Lorms, it says, is the name. It appears they have a question.
Would you give us your name and address, please?
My name is Lisa Lorms. I'm on Union Street.
And my name is Dean Marcos. We're a husband and wife. And we actually own the property next door to this.
Are you going to ask, are you asking questions only, or are you going to make statements also?
Well, I was going to just list some concerns that.
Okay, why don't I just do this? Would you both raise your right hands? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
Okay.
Okay. Is it okay if I just list some concerns that we have about that?
Yes.
Okay, so one concern is this is seems to us a large construction project. It's very close to the house and the yard where we have our tenants live and work and play. So we're concerned about the noise and the debris and all that kind of stuff. We're concerned about the traffic both during construction and after that is complete along that driveway, which is to an existing cedar fence that runs the property line. And a third concern is about there's a number of large trees that are also right very property line that we think could be affected by the new garage, the parking area, the driveway, and construction on the new addition to the house. And in addition to that, we would certainly prefer, if it was possible, as Mr. Fleischer was mentioning, if we could move the existing driveway, which is virtually on our property line, if it could move a foot over.
It's actually on our property in places.
In places on our property, but what they're proposing is to leave it on the property line as opposed to a foot away. And if we're doing all this work
make it conforming where we can make it conforming.
Right.
I thought they were doing it a foot away.
Well, they're doing it a foot away once you get past the existing garage structure. But you can see on the left side of that drawing that they're showing the driveway, existing driveway to remain, which is one.
We can put it on property line, no problem.
Right, yeah, so the 1 foot setback doesn't start until you get essentially past the proposed addition.
Do you have anything further?
Well, yeah, I mean, our clients had a few questions. One of them is if there's going to be all of this major construction happening, big machinery, they're concerned. One of them has a child, there's pets. Is there going to be some kind of fence to contain debris? They're concerned about the workers wearing masks. You know, everybody's home. They're all working in the backyard because it's the pandemic. There's just a lot of anxiety about what's going to happen. We're not familiar with major construction. Is that something that we can expect to see?
Can I address that, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
All I would say is that this is no different than construction projects that take place all over town, involving all kinds of properties, including similar properties to this. There's construction code requirements that that my client and everyone has to follow, and those codes are all rigidly enforced by the building department and perhaps code enforcement, including any disruption with respect to traffic and roads. That all has to be coordinated, and we have to comply, and we will comply with all of the requirements of the construction department, the police department, and any other agency that has any jurisdiction over this project and the construction taking place. It's really not something for this board, but I can assure Ms. Lorms that my client will comply and must comply with all the requirements from the building department.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions or statements about the application?
Did you get your question answered about trees?
Yeah, I don't know if you can address the concerns about the trees or the fence and the work that's happening so close to them. We've had some experiences with construction happening next door to us that killed some large trees on our property. That, you know, I think it would be great to see on the survey, you know, where the trees are and how they might be affected by any digging or driveway work that could happen very, very close to them.
I would simply say the same thing in response to that question that I already said. I mean, the client is obligated to take appropriate precautions to protect your property as well as trees on your property. And if there's a requirement for a fence that's part of the construction code or some other code, they'll have to comply with that.
Have they looked at the trees on the existing property right next to the property line?
I can't answer that. I don't know if Mr. Salerno can.
I don't really recall these trees that we're talking about. There were some trees that were removed, but
yeah, some of them right there in that the house that you're talking about on the bottom picture on the right. Okay. You can see the driveway which is right on the property. There's trees.
I'm not a tree expert, so really I cannot tell you how far, but for this picture, the driveway is about the new addition will be about 10 feet from the driveway, and then there is another 4 feet to that tree. so it's about 15 feet.
That's right.
You know, for previous projects, it seems that the root ball, it will be away from it. So then, but again, I'm not a tree expert. I cannot testify in that regard.
Will a tree expert be consulted on this before any of that work happens? Because I know different trees have different kinds of roots. Some of them are very deep, some of them are shallow.
I'm not really sure if that is some of the requirements from the town. If that's the requirements from the town, I would think that as part of the building permit, that would be required. But I don't know the answer.
And I'm sorry, I know it's been a long night, and I apologize for not being familiar with construction, but would you mind informing me about town rules of hours of the construction is allowed to occur, and is it allowed to occur on the weekends?
I can try to answer that, Mr. Chairman. I believe the code allows for construction to commence, I believe it's 7 o'clock during weekdays and 8 a.m. on Saturdays. I don't think construction is allowed on Sunday. And I believe construction is allowed up until 6 p.m. But I'm just going from recollection.
So it's allowed on
But
Saturday.
that's, yes.
Okay, anything further you want to ask?
Did we settle the driveway being conforming where it could possibly be, or?
Yes, the driveway, we can move it to the property line.
Well,
we want to move it so it's conforming, so it's 1 foot from the property line.
1 foot from the property line where the new addition is happening.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman, the witness?
Yes.
Do you know how long the driveway has been in its current location, ma'am?
No.
Is he asking us?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was asking you if you knew.
You know, it's the tenants at that property have been creeping onto our property for a long time, and I've actually been considering putting up a fence for a long time, like continuing our fence and then attaching it to the house. But because I'm a nice person, I didn't do it because I felt bad for them. But I would really like to extend my fence connected to my house, and my tenants would like this as well. So it would really be helpful if the driveway was not like right up on my property.
Okay, do either of you have anything further you want to say about the application?
No, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other members of the public who either have questions or testimony or anything they want to say about the application?
Here's no, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, I have a couple of questions. Has the calculation been done to determine whether this needs a soil conservation district permit or not?
I discussed it with the zoning officer, and he told me that it was not inside the historic district, but I don't have
It's a
anything.
question of whether you're disturbing more than 5,000 square feet or not.
Yeah, it's not historic. It's soil conservation district, sir.
Their threshold is disturbance of 5,000 square feet.
Yes. Well, if let's say if we are disturbing that, then we would apply to the county for disturbance, and we'll get the civil engineer to do the plans.
And I assume, are you replacing the existing driveway? I mean, it's not in the best of condition.
I believe so. Maybe my client could say, but yes, if we are adding this amount of driveway, we would definitely be improving the old driveway as well.
Mr. Trembulak, do you have anything further?
I don't think so, Mr. Chairman. I think just there's 3 variances for the non-conforming lot width, which obviously we can't do anything about that. The side yard setbacks for the existing building, we'd like to continue those setbacks. They are non-conforming, but the minor non-conformities of less than 1 foot on one side and slightly more than 1 foot on the other. I think obviously if the board is not inclined to grant that variance, I mean, the house could be built in conformity, as I think Mr. Salerno has said. The other variance is for the parking area, which to me it's the driveway, but I understand it's considered to be part of the parking area, which requires a greater setback, although the driveway can be 1 foot from the property line, and that's essentially what this condition is. So I think those variances can be justified under either C1 or C2 criteria. And I think it's also clear in response to the last questions that if the driveway is going to be, if there's going to be a new driveway, that should conform with the setback requirements of 1 foot.
Yeah. We'll start discussion with Mr. Simon.
So to be clear, the driveway setback of 1 foot, that's going to start from the front of the house or just from the front of the addition?
In the way we are showing it, is going to start where the existing garage is.
From the garage, okay. So I would, since you have to do the entire driveway, I would like to see the 1 foot start from the existing, from the new addition going backwards.
Could we do it maybe 20 feet back? Because of if I do it from where the addition starts, it's going to be difficult to maneuver there. They might keep hitting the edge of the left, so we might need to maybe 10, 15 feet and then start the 1 foot.
Okay, so at the least, I would like to see it start from the back of the existing building. So you have that little section.
I see.
You have to start at that section where you can make that slight turn. But from the back of the existing building, I think would be doable to start the 1 foot.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm generally in favor of the application.
Mr. Church?
Hang on, Mr. Church. Go ahead, Mr. Church. Sorry about that.
I'd be in favor of the application with the proviso that the driveway be set back to accommodate the neighbors' concerns.
Mr. McCulloch?
I'm also generally in favor.
Mr. Caulfield?
I'm in favor. I just want the driveway that's on that woman's property to be put on our property, but I'm in favor of the project.
Okay. Ms. Gilmer?
I'm in favor with the same concerns about the driveway.
Mr. Fleischer?
I have a number of concerns about this application, which is why I went at the issue to begin with, which was the lot width and the width of the building and the work that's being done. I would like to see a great number of conditions placed on this, including protection of the trees on the neighbor's property, including a construction fence running the entire length of the property And if the construction trucks can't get through between the existing house and their property line, I don't know how they're gonna then drive through it or live with it that way for the rest of their use, because I'm not sure construction trucks can get back there if there was a construction fence there on the property line. So this house is wider than it needs to be. I would be much more comfortable with a design that allowed for the 10-foot on the side that's adjacent to these other residences. So I'm not certain if I'm in favor of it, but I think if it is approved, it needs to take care of all of those concerns, from protection of the trees to a construction fence that protects the adjacent property, as well as, and that fence should be for the entire length of the property line. And if a result of that is that construction vehicles and others can't get through there, that tells you right away why the entire building is too wide for that particular site. And it could be and should be the 10-foot requirement on that side of the lot. I don't have any problem with 5, 6 on the other side, but there's no reason why you can't get a really lovely house there with 10 foot of clearance on that west side of the house. So I've got some real concerns about it, but I ask, if it is approved, that those kind of tight conditions be placed on it. And particularly the construction adjacent to where some of those trees are, the new garage could further damage the trees. So I think there are some real concerns here with the width of the property. Even at the parking lot area, there are real concerns, because the depth of the spaces are not even 18 feet. The backup is not 18 feet. It's all pretty tight the way it's set up. And I'm not sure it needs to be, given all the work that's being done on this structure. That's all I have.
Mr. Moore?
I am generally in favor of the application with the restrictions that have been recommended by other board members.
I'm
not in favor.
Okay. I have basically the same concerns as Mr. Fleischer. I think in terms of the variances being requested, the lot width, I have no problem granting. That's been an existing condition and no reason not to grant that variance. I think I don't have a problem with the 1 foot setback for the rear parking area. The side yard setbacks, the setback on the eastern side, I don't have a problem with. The setback on the other side, I think I want to approach this in terms of the driveway. I want the driveway to maintain a 1 foot setback from the adjacent property for its entire length. And that may have consequences in terms of what they're doing with the house on that side, but I will let them determine whether the driveway will then be wide enough or not. But before that driveway is installed, I want the 1 foot marked off so it is installed in the right place. I want them to determine whether they need a permit from the Soil Conservation District, a certification from the Soil Conservation District. If they do not need a permit, as Mr. Fleischer said, I want in all areas where construction is going on both side property lines, I want appropriate fencing installed to protect the adjacent properties. And then I want them to hire a tree consultant to determine what measures they should take to protect the trees that are on the neighboring property, any trees that are within 10 feet of the property line on the neighboring property. I think with those conditions, the applicant has, it demonstrated based on the circumstances of the lot that they qualify for the variances and that this will not result in a substantial detriment to the public good or a substantial impairment of the zone plan. Would someone like to make a motion, or does the board want to discuss it further? Has everyone gone home?
If there's no discussion, someone should make a motion.
Okay, motion to approve the application with the conditions of the driveway and hiring of the tree consultants. And was there one more?
The fencing, either getting a soil conservation district, which would require the fencing, or if they don't need one, that fencing be installed along the two side property lines.
Okay, motion to approve the application with the conditions just mentioned.
Second.
Who was the second? Sorry, who was the second? Oh, Mr. Church.
Yes, I second.
Okay, and we'll call the roll. Ms. Gilmer,
Yes.
Mr. Caulfield,
Yes.
Mr. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. McCullough,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Fleischer,
No.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Okay, the application is approved.
Okay, so that's it for tonight. First, we should all congratulate Mr. Petto. He is now father of a new son.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And we thank him for getting us together tonight in spite of that. Appreciate it.
Sorry if I'm a little tired, but
Oh, congratulations, Graham.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And we need a motion to adjourn, and we'll reconvene in September.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you all.
Have a good night.
In September.
Yes.